Hello, everyone. In today's special two-part episode, we are going to hear from Eric Porter, founder of Backyard Orphans. He is doing incredible work in the lives of our children in our communities and around the world. We are so excited for y'all to listen in to today's episode, so enjoy.
Hello. Today we are speaking with the Eric Porter of the Backyard Orphans. And it is such an exciting time in your ministry. It's been a pleasure to just see the growth and to see God every time I see you, every time I pull up my email and I see anything about Backyard Orphans. I mean, it's God all in that thing. So I'm just excited that everyone that do not know get to hear about Backyard Orphans today. And I'm even excited about those that know about Backyard Orphans to hear what you all are doing today from where you started from. So welcome, Eric, to our podcast today. And thank you for carving out this little time to fit us in.
No, I'm I'm honored that you would have me, Nikki and Sam. Thanks so much for sending this to the airwaves, to the video, all the things for people and families to learn more. One of the things we realize is people don't always know what's going on in their own backyard, right? And so the fact that you're doing this is living out Proverbs 31, 8 and 9. It says, "Speak up for those that cannot speak for themselves, for the poor, for the destitute." And thank you guys for doing this and letting us be a part of it.
All right. Well, let's speak up. Let's get busy on it. Eric, introduce yourself to everyone that's listening today.
Oh, well, as you said, Eric Porter's my name. This is my family right here. So I got a little
Right.
picture. If you are listening and not watching, you'll see a family photo here. But we have six children in this picture, celebrating 26 years with my girlfriend, my wife,
Oh.
from my college sweetheart right there. And then if you see the picture, there's four of a Caucasian hue and then two of a darker hue. So we have two adopted, four bio. I'll let you figure out which ones are which right there. Um, but it's a fun year for us. We had some, graduate last year from college, graduate from high school last year, going into college. Our oldest, Madison, got married in September, and
No.
then yeah, and then got pregnant in November. So I'm going to be a grandparent this year, guys, and I'm so excited
Fast
What?
to
tracked.
Oh,
enter.
yeah. What is Backyard Orphans?
Yeah, it's good. So we were local pastors for 12 years, and those years we made a lot of phone calls to the child abuse hotline as a pastor. Kids from our community were coming to our church who've been abused, who've been abandoned, who've been neglected. Stories that just rip your heart out. I remember a young girl who was being beaten by her father with a cane because she didn't make straight A's. Kids pushed into dryers for discipline, whipped with cables. Newborn babies left for dead in dumpsters. I thought those were stories that were on the other side of the world. And God was starting to show me as a local pastor, Eric, you're flying over kids to reach kids. There's kids in your own backyard that feel orphaned. And the church needs to be the solution to bring God's hope and healing to these hurting hearts. And so that's where it started about 14 years ago. It's kind of crazy to like hear those numbers and stuff like that because in some
Right.
senses it feels like yesterday. The gray hair tells otherwise. Being a grandparent this year tells otherwise. So,
Wow.
Oh.
Now, just thinking of the reality as a pastor, though, and they come to you, I guess you're just praying for them and then you're sending them back into that situation.
right. That was what was so uncomfortable. It was just like, wait, my only job at that time was to just make that phone call and then hand them to the government and say, help them, and on our journey we started learning the numbers, so there's 400,000 kids generally in Texas, or not Texas, but US foster care.
Mhm.
100,000 ready for adoption. And here's actually a new number that's come across my desk, guys, is about 150,000 unaccompanied minors in the United States. So we live in Texas, and so you bring those down a little bit and say 30,000, around 30,000 kids in foster care, 4,000 ready for adoption, but 89,000 unaccompanied minors. So
Mm-hmm.
I say those other numbers because when we talk about kids that feel orphaned, it never is exclusive to foster care. It includes unaccompanied minors. It includes couch surfing kids. It includes kids that are homeless. I believe the church is called to help all these kids who feel orphaned in this space. So you kind of, that's the bad news, right? 400,000, all those big numbers. But in the US, here's the good news. There's 350,000 churches. So 400,000 kids, 350,000 churches, we believe it's problem solvable, that
Mm-hmm.
there'd be a day where there'd be more families waiting on children than children waiting on families. Nikki, I and Sam, I am done with kids sleeping in hotel rooms or being placed in more abusive homes because they're not finding the right homes or they don't find enough homes. So the mission for us is to help equip pastors to recruit families to care for hurting kids in their homes. So that's the mission of Backyard Orphans. And in Texas where we live, we're headquartered here, but we serve in the US and around the world. The Texas numbers are 30,000, like I said, but there's about 27,000 churches. So again, problem solvable. If every church just recruits one family, and
Mm-hmm.
here's the interesting thing as a former pastor and a missionary and ordained, all these little fancy things behind me, is you got to dig in and understand what the scripture is saying, what God said through the Old Testament, New Testament. And the word you pull from it is a mandate. That through the Old Testament and New Testament, the church and Christians, so it's a personal mandate and it's a church mandate. So both the individual and the community of the church
Mm-hmm.
are mandated, called, required. It's not an option
Right, right.
to care for those that are orphaned. Now, I think I can get pastors nodding on that, but I
Mm-hmm.
try to make it practical to pastors. So, as a former pastor, like I don't know that I ever went a service without an usher,
Okay.
right? But we're
Okay.
not we're not mandated to have ushers, but
Mhm.
we need to,
But they have
have an
it.
usher. But we're mandated to care for orphans, and we'll go weeks, months, years without doing orphan care. And it's like, guys, we can't think of church the way we've been experienced church or traditionally taught church. We have to look at the Bible and redefine what does the Bible say the church's requirements or mandates are. And so that is part of the job is like in my world is trying to help pastors to see the biblical mandate, help
Mhm.
them to see that the problem right here, they don't have to fly over kids to reach kids. They're right in their own backyard. We want to help guide them with the difficulty. They get intimidated working with the government, right? And so we help them build a bridge to the local child welfare or local agencies like your own because they don't know how to find a good, how do we know what agency to go? And I'm like, cherished impressions, it's like, so we help them with that. We help them to like build the ministry. We help these pastors to set some, like smart goals,
Right.
specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. So it's like, what are some actual goals, attainable goals? And so one of them is like, well, how many kids can we foster or adopt at your church? That's like one goal.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then you just go from there and try to help pastors get involved. And so we've even developed 4 levels of involvement for churches. So level one, kind of simple. It's what I said at the beginning. Actually, you guys are doing it. Speak up for those that cannot speak. Level one is prayer. We actually developed a prayer guide that maybe we can post the link, but it's prayer.backyardorphans.org. It's a free guide online for pastors and churches to pray through the foster care system. They can pray for agencies like yours. They can pray for the biological moms and dads, the foster parents, CASA workers, court-appointed special advocates. Many of those, if not all of those, involved in the foster care space. That's level one. Some
Right.
churches, they're ready to go level two. Let's get some cribs, some beds, some shoes.
Mhm.
Let's do some tangible, concrete services level two.
Okay.
Now, here's where I kind of lose churches sometimes, right? Because James 1:27 says to look after
Mhm.
widows and orphans. And so that phrase look after, if you kind of do the nerd dig in some of these Bible, books back here, and you say, what is it? What was James really trying to say to look after? The
Mhm.
picture means that you be where they are. It's discipleship. It's like
Mhm.
getting in proximity to the hurt, pain, and chaos. And so churches can do level one and two, which is great, and that's a great starting place. But we got to get them into making disciples of all nations, which is level three, which I know some of the things you guys do also help at level three, which is like parties, events, mentoring,
Yeah.
uh, teaching, training, camps. All
Yeah.
those things are at level three. And then the deep dive, level four, is where we want them to go eventually or to start out, depending on where they're at, is to recruit families on an annual basis from the pulpit to foster and adopt.
Yeah.
That's
That's really
awesome.
good. I'm so curious from your perspective, and I don't know, this might be a dangerous question to ask. With all the churches in America, you said there are 350,000 churches, 400,000 roughly children that need to be adopted. Why is there, with those numbers, there shouldn't be this deficit that, in reality, the number should be there's 50,000 children that need to be adopted. Why, when the mandates are so clear in scripture, why is that? Why is this a problem? Is it a heart problem? Is it a conviction problem? Like, what is it that is keeping God's people from taking action?
That's a great question. I think people even thought when I was getting into this 14 years ago, and I thought too, the church, and three main groups we work with, church, government, and agencies like you guys, right? I would have thought the church was the first one because it's Bible, right?
Right.
But they're the third one sometimes, to get involved in this space. And you're asking the question, why? And I'm going to go a little historical on you. I wasn't there. This is a little bit of a speculative answer, but 100 years ago or so, when
I knew,
foster care,
I knew you were going to say something about it tons of years ago. Yes, you were not there. So
I was not there.
tell us what you've learned because you are a nerd. Everyone
Yes, I am.
is a
It
nerd.
goes back to like,
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. The other word. He's a
He's a
researcher.
researcher.
Okay. And spiritual
I'll say I'm a
researcher as
nerd.
well.
I'm a nerd. My,
Okay.
my wife will say I'm a nerd. So,
Yes.
and I have a team that likes to do the research too. So, I think we're getting close to 100 years ago when foster care was created
Mm-hmm.
in New York in that area. People didn't know what to do with it. They literally used animal abuse laws to create child abuse laws. And that sounds dark, but I think you have to understand context. Back then, the church just did it, right? Like families were more communal.
Mhm.
Churches were more communal. If my neighbor was having a hard time, come live with us for a minute. If my
Right.
family was having a hard time, come live with us. But somewhere in culture, the US became very individualized, and we were just focused on our, world right there. So they just didn't know what to do. So they developed the laws. Then they created the orphan train that was like sending kids out of the Northeast across the plains of Texas from sea to. No, I don't sing, so let's don't do that.
No.
Uh, um, but I think somewhere in there, the church was like, oh, well, I guess the government's got it,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? And it just appears that way, it feels that way that we, the church, I'm saying we, the church, just let it be an institution as a solution. Now let's talk about that for a second. Because some of what we're saying is um, God did not create institutional orphan or foster care.
Mhm.
In fact, if you think about like in the US, we the church can outsource orphan care, foster care through the institution of a government. Internationally, outside the United States, the church outsources orphan care to orphanages.
Right.
So
And
those are both institutional options that are man-made. And what's happening with all these situations, the government and the US and even international orphanages, they're realizing that um, those situations sometimes cause more trauma on the child. Um, and in some scenarios, they're shutting down orphanages and different models because they're realizing the studies are showing that children find healing from their hurt, pain, and trauma by being in a family, like a mom and a dad or a single parent home, is a better option than a children's home, but a children's home is a better option than an orphanage. And so I love it. I love it, guys, when the smart people in the studies
right.
are catching up to scripture, right?
Mhm.
Because God said this back in Psalm 68, 5 and 6. He said, God is a father to the fatherless, a defender of widows, and he puts the lonely in families, not
Mhm.
institutions,
Right.
right? So historically, I think the church just started allowing the government to take over.
Right.
Then they got focused on churchy things, right? Like one of my favorite, excuses from I got to be kind because I love my pastors. Um, reasons that a church would put off
Hmm.
getting involved in doing orphan care is Eric, we got this parking lot to like take care of. That's my favorite right there, parking lot, And I'm like,
Mm.
I was a pastor. I know parking lots are important. I know they're
Right.
important. Striping them, you can't have people like slipping and all things. I'm just like, that is not the mandate. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and so reminding it's some of the stuff, Sam, I said earlier, they don't know there's a problem in their own backyard. Even if they do get like next to it like we did, like they have to make some phone calls or they know of a foster family. Are
Hmm.
they really leaning into like our pastor when we were before we launched into this, our pastor actually went through the foster parent training. This is a church of like 11,000 when I was there.
Hmm.
Like I couldn't believe that he stepped down to like, go through the training because he wanted to know like look after. Like what does that really mean? And so it's all the things I said earlier. They don't know where to start. They're intimidated by the government. They don't even know there's a problem in their own backyard. All those things. And then all we're saying is, hey, pastor, we'll help you see and illuminate the problem going on in your own backyard. And then our team is here to guide you through a process to build a ministry that recruits foster adopt families and support families on an annual basis. So that was long.
That's so good. We get so distracted.
Hmm.
We've been told that we have to have the American dream, right? Like a home, a car, all of the things that we should have. And in reality, God's like, that's, okay, that's great, but this is what I really want for my people. This is what I
Hmm.
really want y'all to be searching out and seeking. And when I started my own journey about learning about children in hard places, the crisis in America and other countries, it's just my heart broke. And it was once you know the data, you can't go back from it. You
Hmm.
can't undo what you've seen. And I think that's what needs to happen. I think when you said church and people and that you train both, to me, I know it's kind of different. There's the church, the institution, but we are the church and we're everywhere. And so we need to be behaving in that way and
Hmm.
realizing that our lives are not about us. They're about how we can glorify God through
Right.
helping others. And I just love that that's your mission.
Hmm.
Well, and I want pastors or any people listening to understand, not every person, not every church is called to foster adopt.
Yeah.
Because listen, I've been full-time ministry. I think I'm hitting 25 years this year, full-time ministry. I have come to a place to understand not every adult should reproduce. So not every adult should be a foster
Hmm.
parent, right?
Right.
So, but everybody's called to do something, and that's what those levels are for. It's like everybody
Right.
is mandated to do something, and I know not every church is ready. Like they just church planted, or they're just going through there's a situation that happened in the church, and it's just they need to work through that until they get healthy. I will totally join a pastor in trying to help his congregation get healthy because we do not want churches or families who's uh, who are not healthy to take in kids because that's just it'll blow things up. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to be perfect. There's no perfect church, no perfect family. We just need to make sure that they're healthy.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Sam talked about just getting the word out earlier, and just when you said, our mission, our charge is to go out there and share, is to expose, to let us know. I know fear steps in a lot of times,
Mhm.
not just in the church because it seems controversial. Well, let me just preach the word, but that is the word, and I
Mhm.
love that you teach churches that. And I've sat there and I've heard you in church. I've heard you preach it. I've heard you shout it, and I've heard you teach it as well. And you do a great job with that. I also want to bring into the community that not only are you working with churches, you work with communities. And one thing when Sam was talking that I thought about that you do. And back your orphans, your team, you all are great at going into the community and setting up scenarios to just bring the awareness, because sometimes if you don't know, you just don't
Right.
know. You know, maybe we're in a small church and oh, we're not affected by it. That's what we think.
Right.
Because if we have a grandmother in that church with their grandchild that's now they're raising, then we have to say, why is grandma raising grandchild? You
Mhm.
know, is it because the child was taken out of the parents, home, and now grandma stepped in? Could it be that it could even just be a death? We're still talking about orphans. We're still
Right.
talking about someone, an orphan is a child without their bio mother and their bio father. No
Right.
matter, where they are, we're still caring for orphans. Talk to us about the community and some things that you have done in the community to make us all aware. And then just thinking about that with Sam, Sam is not a foster parent. She has not been an adoptive parent, but she does realize and she's accepted that call that I'm to do something,
Right.
and I commend her for that all the time because getting the word out, such as this, is doing your something,
Right.
and that's what you challenge our community to do. Find out what your something is, and let's put that into action. So, talk to us about, and just talk to our community about what's out there
Yeah.
for them. What can they do if they're in a small church? Maybe it's just 20 or 30 of us getting together on Sunday, so we can't do a whole lot. And what can I do in my neighborhood? What are some things that could be done?
Yeah, I that just so reflects your heart, Nikki. You just I love the question because it reflects you just want to reach out. You
Yeah.
love outreach.
Just
So
get it
I
out
love
there.
this. I love it. I love it. Sam, I was going to tell you, don't ever feel guilty or bad. You know what I'm saying? That you're not a foster or adopted parents. You know what I'm saying? In fact, don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
That's when you let us warn you.
To get my husband
No,
on
Right.
board.
But I'm glad you said that, Eric, because we do have people that tune in that,
no,
feel guilty
never.
because they
Right.
can't.
Yeah, I get it. Guys, I was on stage recruiting families for 5 or 6 years. And I really had to fight that. And the
Mhm.
enemy wants to shame. You know what I'm saying? That's not how this comes
Stop.
about. Like this needs to be a
Mhm.
calling, you know? So Sam, don't ever feel guilty. Don't ever
Oh, I
feel
know.
pressure.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted you to know that, and any listener or viewer uh
Correct.
who's
That's good. Yeah.
doing something, whether you're giving financially, you're praying, or you're serving in some way, like
Mhm.
that's great. That's the mandate. Okay, so I just want to address that. Okay,
That's
Thank
good.
you.
That's good.
back to what you were saying. When I'm talking to pastors, I really break it down to two main aspects of what we describe as orphan care. Now, again, I'm saying orphan care, and it sometimes makes my like child welfare friends like uncomfortable. And I go, listen, guys, foster care is a government word anyway. Orphan is a biblical word. I'm
Mhm.
not saying they are orphans. I'm saying they feel orphan though. They feel
Mhm.
orphan. They might
Mhm.
not be able to verbalize it, but they do. Anyway, because orphan is like lonely, destitute, in the spiritual sense. Nikki gave the Webster's definition, which is their parents are deceased. That's true. That's like the direct one. But the broader one is that they feel lonely or abandoned and things like that. So
Mhm.
when it comes to orphan care for a church, we say there's two main things. Okay, one is pastoral care. We know this that like one, there's not enough families. We need more families. So if you're listening to this, pray in, read in, lean in to
Mhm.
maybe becoming a foster or adopt family because there's not enough families.
Right.
Second thing we know about the families is 50% of them quit because there's not enough support after the first year. And then the second year, another 50% quit. So some of what we're doing right there is helping churches. I have to say, smaller churches probably just do this naturally well, where
Mhm.
they're like Acts chapter 2, and they just take care of each other as they have need. So, but it's helping that smaller church to understand, hey, you're going to need to step in just like you would a newborn family in your church. You're going to do a potluck for them, or you're going to give them a bunch of meals when they need to do the same thing. Okay. To medium to larger churches might need to get a system in place for pastoral care. So the second piece to it is the outreach piece. So you got the pastoral care piece, and the second piece is what Nikki's referring to as outreach. Listen, Nikki, I love both. I don't even know if I had to flip a coin, which one I like more. Do I like the pastoral care, or do I like the outreach? I don't know. I might join you with the outreach sometimes, because I just like going out and handing them to somebody else,
I need
So
you to pastor them and care for them so they
That's
will
right.
come out and do the
That's
outreach.
right.
right. So yeah, in our county where we live here together, I'm always want to make sure churches are doing good care internally, and
Mhm.
then we do some fun things outside. So let me throw some fun things out in
Yeah.
the community outreach. churches will look at like back to school backpack drives. We want churches to build relationship with their local child welfare. It's not as hard as it sounds. It's really not. When you can come, if any of my church leaders are on this, and if you're a volunteer, talk to your pastor, make sure that you're together. If you're a pastor, if you go to your local county child welfare
Mhm.
and you say, "Hey, we want to serve you," they're already going to be like,
Huh?
what are you trying to do here? Skeptical, and it's okay. But guys, this is like simple fruits of the spirit. You know what I'm saying? Just show kindness, love, joy, peace, patience, all that stuff, and just say, we want to serve you. What are some needs? If you had like the top 5 needs that you need, how can our church maybe try to help with one of those? Okay. Because even if you say 5, you might not be able to do all 5. So, child welfare, for example, will probably say, we need more families.
Mm,
Okay. So you're doing some outreach by doing that. They might say, "Hey, we need some trauma training for these parents."
mm,
Okay. So we've seen churches host. There's a friend of ours, Show Hope Ministries. They do Hope for the Journey.
okay.
And it's a simple tool where in the spring, early summer, churches can purchase this pre-recorded. I think they do a refresh every year, so it's always current training. And a church on a Friday night or an all-day Saturday or something like that can host this community-wide training and invite all their foster families. Again, going through the child welfare or going through an agency and saying, "Hey, we want to open up some parent training for them." We've in building relationship with child welfare, I built a texting relationship with ours in our county.
Mm.
And I remember reaching out one time during the old COVID season and like, "How are you doing? What can we pray for?" She's like, "Eric, she said, I got half of my staff quarantined
Mhm.
with COVID because they're dealing with all these kids with COVID. I said, "How can we help?" And I said, "I'll pray for you, but is there anything tangible?" And we landed on rallying the community to help provide like gift cards to like Chick-fil-A so that all her staff members got them delivered so they could get like a DoorDash to their home while they're quarantined. That is so
Sweet,
easy,
Yeah.
sweet.
for to like make a big impact in your local child welfare teams to families. I remember one time I working with Nikki and her team. This was a fun one with the local Chick-fil-A.
Yes, ma'am.
We invited, all these families, and you have to cap it. You have to like we can do 5 families at a time, then the next 5. I think we did 3 or 4 rounds, and we would have them start at the restaurant, and Chick-fil-A donated meals, like full meals,
Family
to
meals.
Oh,
to each
wow.
member of the
Family.
family. I was like, let's go.
Yes, yes.
So
No, you actually
yeah.
said it. You're
And
right.
so then we walked over to the hotel, and Nikki's team, my team, we
Mhm.
had like 2 or 3 aged rooms for little kids, other kids. They're doing balloons, doing crafts. And then I got to be like Pastor Eric over there and like
Yeah.
talk to the parents and just encourage them because they're doing the hardest thing they'll ever do in their life by saying yes to foster family. And then the next group came through. It was so fun and so beautiful. So again, that takes a lot more energy and effort to put
Mhm.
together. It's not as easy as those other ones. I think of like Angel Tree Ministries, like
Mhm.
um, where at Christmas time, reaching out to an agency or child welfare and getting names of kids, maybe not names, maybe it's a first name, maybe it's an age, and
Mhm.
then an item or two they
Gender.
want.
Mhm. The
Yeah.
Yeah,
gender and what
Yeah.
something they
yeah,
want.
gender, and it's like it could be, yeah, it could just be the gender. And our church, man, they help dozens of kids in foster care every year with the Angel Tree. I remember one time in building a relationship with our local teams, they found out the waiting area where the family meetings and kids
Mm.
have to wait
Right.
sometimes in the
Yes.
local child welfare office.
Mhm.
It just had been a while since it had been renovated, and our church went in and renovated their office space. Like, how awesome is that? Anyway, there's a bunch of ideas right there for the community to reach out.
That is awesome. And that is still going on today. And as our listeners know, we're in Ellis County, and we can be in a better county. I mean,
Right.
it's nothing else we can say because our county stepped up and stepped out every single time for our CPAs, for our CPS officers, for the child welfare. They're there giving and helping. Our churches are doing an amazing job. I know.
We keep going. We got great judges. We got
Oh,
great police
yes, there you
officers. We
go.
got all those
They
systems.
decorate and celebrate
Yeah.
our children even in November for the adoption. And we've gotten the opportunity to really meet a lot of those great people, and that's why we wanted you to join us today to talk about Backyard Orphans, because you all do a lot with not just training, but just events and activities. And I'm going to toot the horn a little. And you all had a movie night. I
Oh,
mean, and invited all the families. It doesn't matter, which church they were attending. It didn't matter, the community. If you're in my neighborhood, it's just our backyard, and
Right.
you invited all of them down. And just the promotion going towards our families were involved. It was well planned out. They were informed. They were excited about it. The children were excited, and I heard weeks later, families still talking about it.
Oh, that's encouraging.
And it's
Can I
not
tell you something,
just
a little secret about that?
huh?
I was on sabbatical.
It's
My
the
team
team.
did
It's the
that.
team. I'm
That's
telling
who
you.
my team is. And obviously, we talked about it before, but they were like, "What do you want to see?" I'm like, "You guys got it."
Yes.
And
Let
that's
them
so
have it
great to
because
hear that.
everybody got it.
Oh,
Everybody got it. And it's not, it was a movie of substance.
yes.
It's not
On the
just
whole,
saying,
no.
hey, here you are. This is something, to entertain you. No, it moves you. And that's what you all do as a team.
thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to tune in next week for the conclusion of Eric's interview. We have so much more to share, and we really, really want you to come back and join us next week. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and check us out on YouTube. We are there as well. All the video versions of these episodes are aired there. So, see you next week.